Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Amy Fletcher. Welcome to Using MS Teams for Teachers. So today we wanted to get everybody together just to have a chat around actually some best practices with MS Teams and share some of our own experiences. So I'm just going to talk around actually who we are. So Will, if I could just get you to cover the webinar guidance for everyone, please.
Yes, of course. Now, we're delivering today's webinar through the live event software. So that means you can't see us. Sorry, you can see us, but we can't see you. And we're broadcasting our slides to you, and you'll be able to send us in questions or comments via the Q&A panel, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. It might be for some of you on the bottom of your screen. If you want to type a question in with your name, you can do so, but you can also send your questions in anonymously if you would like to as well. Also in the opening slide, you'll be able to see that if you want to use the closed captions, you can press the CC button and then the captions will start automatically. Thanks very much.
Okay, so I just wanted to do a quick bit of introductions to everybody. So yeah, my name is Amy Fletcher. I'm the training manager at Wiltshire Council. We actually have an external brand of Wiltshire Training where we do lots of training courses. And to give you a bit of background, actually, we've been running, we've got 52 different remote training sessions we run. And we've actually trained over 3,000 learners in the 8 months when COVID actually came in, the restrictions. So we've had a lot of learnings along the way, a steep learning curve. Very much aware of actually where you are at the moment. I can still remember myself what it was like. One of the things we did ask you to do is complete the questionnaire before the actual webinar. And 80% of you actually said you've got a low confidence level when actually running these virtual classrooms at the moment. Now, that is perfectly normal. I remember my levels right back at the beginning. I was definitely not confident with the system. My confidence level has grown the more I got used to it. But yes, very anxious, very worried about actually making sure I did the best for my learners, which was really tricky. And we also asked you to actually give us 3 words for how you're feeling at the moment using virtual classrooms. So as you can see from this image, here's some of the words that were said. So there's frustration. There's a lot of people unsure, lacking experiences, but great, optimistic there as well, interested in what you could do with the system. And that's what we're here for today. We really want to support you with our learnings and what we gathered along the way, because actually, yeah, looking back over those 8 months, where we are now is a real step ahead. So if we can share and help support you out there, I think that's so important. Will, if I pass to you.
Yeah, no, I think that point about the steep learning curve that we've all been through is something that all teachers are doing. So, and I personally say I'm an ex-teacher before I kind of worked for the council, and I'm a parent with 2 kids at home at the moment. I've been amazed at how quickly a lot of schools have been able to get digital learning up so quickly. But what we can't go through all the functionality today, but I think what we very much want to help you understand is that you're not alone. There's a lot of people also learning as they go through, and we want to show you enough to spark some interest in what's available for you with the system, but also help you get over that anxiety kind of boundary that might stop you from experimenting and playing with the technology to get the best out of it. Thanks, Amy.
No problem. And also to share, I'm feeling a little anxious doing this because this is new software. So, you know, all of us are still learning, still on that learning curve. And actually, that's a perfectly normal place to be. Okay, so what we're going to go through in the 45 minutes we're all together, and obviously this is being recorded as well, so you can reflect on it at any point, is we are going to look at some meeting options. So what you can do with meeting options when you've set your meetings up in MS Teams. How to manage participants as well. So some of the features that are actually involved under participants that might help you control that classroom environment. Looking at live captions, it was a question that actually was asked of us in the questionnaire. So we will look at live captions and give you some ideas with that. We can also look at breakout rooms, something very new. Ourselves as well, we're all learning this, but we want to share with you our experiences with it and some best practices with that as well. And it might hopefully make you interested to give it a go yourself. We've also got a coming soon to MS Teams section and a place to actually signpost where you can look up yourself what is new, what might be coming, so you have the latest information. We're also going to hopefully have a lovely section where actually we're going to ask for your top tips. So working together, getting some ideas from you guys as well. What is working well for you at the moment? Rather than it just be us sharing ours, we'd love to hear some of yours as well. We're going to look at how you update your MS Teams system to get the most you can from it as well. And then obviously a section with your questions, anything you'd like to know that we could possibly show you. I will say we won't always have a chance to reply to every question, but we will look into them and we will get back to people as well. That's really important. And finally, we also are going to have some signposting, so that we've got some great resources out there that will actually support with actually things you could design in the classroom, so activities, but also around safeguarding, etc. We will cover that at the end, so you know the places you can go as well. Okay, so the first thing I want to just discuss with everybody is meeting options. So once you've actually set up a meeting in MS Teams, it will obviously appear into your calendar. And what you can do is you can go back into that meeting and actually edit it. Now, once you go into edit, you can see along the top, you've got options like chat, files, details, etc. But the main one we want to look at today is the three dots here on the right-hand side, because that will open up your meeting options. Now, this is the key area where you can change actually the restrictions in that meeting. So who can present, who could do certain items like muting, etc. in there. So if I clicked on that, it would then take me to this page on an internet browser. And you can see here a couple of key things it will ask me. So number one, who can bypass the lobby? So the lobby is a really good little feature to control who's coming into your classrooms, but you can change it. So you could have everybody could bypass the lobby and come straight into your meeting, or only people in my organization, or even only me. So it's a way of actually changing it to actually say, for example, only me means you as the trainer, you can sit there preparing yourself and admit everybody at the same time and know who's coming in as well and have that control element. Another option in here as well, I think is really important, is who can present. And the reason I wanted to share this one is my son and daughter are also at school. One of the things my son does find very funny is when other children are presenting YouTube and PowerPoints, etc. So I'm sure this is going to be a useful one for everyone. But in here, who can present? You can change it to only me or specific people. So at the moment, it would be set to people in my organization. So anybody in the organization would be able to present. So you would need to go into there and change it to only me or specific people. The specific people might be quite useful if you've got a TA or two teachers working together, that both of you could then present, okay? But it would stop everybody else being able to share their screen. And obviously, once you've done that, you would need to press that save button, which will give you then all those actions in that meeting and will protect your meeting. If you are setting up, by the way, as a reoccurring meeting every week as well, it will change it for every single one. So you don't have to do it every week as well. Okay, so the other thing I just wanted to mention, sorry, I had forgot about this. I have got this really great image I found yesterday. This one shows those different levels in MS Teams. So there's 3 different levels whenever you're using MS Teams. You have an organizer, a presenter, and an attendee. So the organizer is the one that sent the invite out for the meetings, okay? The presenter is obviously one that shares their PowerPoint and discusses a bit like we are today. But you can see here the attendee level, which really restricts down the access. So if you are doing that they cannot present, they would be an attendee. So it means they cannot share, they cannot pin somebody's video, and they cannot omit people from the lobby. There's a lot more controls in there for you. So it's something just to bear in mind, and it might be you pause the video at this point to have a good look at that and see actually what sort of levels you would have for those different areas.
Can I just add a point there, Amy? And I think it's the one that has been highlighted for me, kind of watching as a parent, is seeing the frustration that teachers have had when, if children have been presenters in a MS Teams classroom, they've been able to mute the teacher, which I guess, you know, may tap into some deep-seated joy for us as previous children. However, also thinking about being an ex-teacher, that would annoy me greatly. And as Amy has said, by going through those meeting options and being able to set only one person or 2 specific people being the presenter, it automatically defaults that everyone else coming into that meeting is then an attendee and then are unable to mute the teacher.
That's a brilliant point, Will. And actually, I think it leads nicely to you anyway for the next little section.
Brilliant. Yeah, so one of the other ways in which you can manage participants when you're in the meeting is to, again, go to the up to the top there, and we see meeting participants, 2 people overlapping, and that brings up a menu from which you can create people into being attendees or presenters or organisers if you haven't already done so. But the reason I want to highlight this to you now is also the spotlight function. And the spotlight function enables you to spotlight a person's screen who's a participant in your meeting so that they become big on the screen for everybody. Now, that could be a lot of schools when they're having the pupils come into the virtual classroom and asking them to turn their cameras off, and that enables automatically the teacher's camera to be the largest thing in the virtual classroom. You can also use Spotlight if you've got another teacher or a TA or one of the pupils in the virtual classroom who are presenting back on a particular topic. So to enable everyone else to see them clearly, you can go to the attendees, which are up there on the top left, and then highlight their name and then spotlight them. I think you can also do it by hovering over their initials where their camera would be in the virtual classroom itself. Now, I saw this particularly used well in assemblies. I think a lot of schools are using Teams to have assemblies for the whole school, and they go from classroom to classroom, and the teacher, particularly say in celebration assembly at the end of the week, is saying, talking about their particular class. But when I saw one for my kids' school, they hadn't learned how to do spotlighting, and so the class was just one small square on the screen. So very quietly, without telling them, I spotlighted that particular class, and then when I went on to the next one, I spotlighted the next one, and so they could see what it was going on. So I then sent an email to the head and said, this is the way that you can spotlight. So that would be one of my top tips for doing assemblies, or when you want another pupil or another person to be seen bigger, you can spotlight them. Thanks very much, Amy. Oh, that's the next one. So that's me again, apologies. Captions. So some of you might be using captions now. And actually, I'd encourage you, if you want to see what they look like from a user point of view, is you can turn on captions for yourselves. Now, whenever you set up an MS Teams meeting, it will have the captions running in the background, and it's up to the user or the pupil to turn captions on for themselves. So it might be one of those things that you cover off in training for parents and pupils, how they would like to turn on the captions. So they go to the ellipsis, to the three dots menu, click on that, and it'll bring up the menu, and one of those will be turn on live captions. They aren't perfect, but they are better than not having captions at all. So our top tips, and this is one of the things that I should probably remind myself, is if you want captions to work well, is to slow down the pace of your speech. Other ways that you can help children that might use captions is to send the resources to the parents and the pupils prior to help with that pre-tutoring. Also, you can use the chat feature to enable children to ask questions and to support their learning. Now, I know that in some classes, people have, as a way to stop children from interrupting and muting, have cancelled chat completely. Personally, I feel that's a retrograde step. I think Amy's advice about managing the settings in a more proactive way is probably a better way, because as we all know, pupils have different learning styles, and those pupils at home may feel a little discouraged in unmuting themselves and may have difficulty in getting the teacher's attention. But actually, chat is a good way for them to talk about their learning as they go through. Now, I've seen some pupils, again, taking advantage of that, but I think that's one of those things that teachers should be able to manage by having agreed usage policies with children, to say that it's It's a privilege to have the chat, and this is what we're going to use the chat for. Thanks so much, Amy.
Thanks, Will. Okay, so next thing I did want to talk about was breakout rooms. It is a new feature that's come through on MS Teams. And like I said earlier, we're still very much learning it ourselves. In fact, I've done it, I think, 3 times this week myself. But I did want to talk through it because it's been a fantastic feature that I'm finding really, really useful at the moment. So the main thing to point out is you have to be the organizer of that meeting to get the option for breakout rooms, okay? It doesn't work for a presenter and it doesn't work for an attendee. So it's really important you have that as an organizer so you can actually set these up. What you would do is you go to your toolbar at the top and you will click on this icon. So I kind of think of it as a small room in a big room there. And what that'll then bring up for the organizer is this create breakout room list in front of you. So it says here, how many rooms do you need? Now you can have up to 50 rooms, by the way, if you want to. I haven't quite got that adventurous because I think that's a bit too hard to manage. I tend to work with 4, maybe 5 at the moment. The other option you've also got is how would you like to assign the participants? So you got 2 options here. Automatically, we'll assign those people automatically into the different rooms, however it wants to. However, you have the option to do it manually as well. So that could be useful for the different skills, different levels for, maths, etc. If you want them to go and do a project in different rooms, you could actually manually organize who's going to go into these rooms. This is something you also do during the meeting, by the way. It's not something you can set up beforehand, but it is so quick to do that is not a problem. So basically, as you can see, you would do that. How many rooms do you want? And you would press create rooms. Once you've pressed the create rooms, it will then come up on your right hand side of your screen like this, saying the breakout rooms. And you can see the example here with my colleagues. This is because I did test it out. It's automatically assigned those colleagues to the different rooms that are there. I can see at the moment, though, my rooms are closed. Okay, I haven't started these rooms, so they're not going to go anywhere. However, I want to now start the room. So what I'd also need to do then is just press start rooms. That will automatically start putting that process into place to open those rooms and send your learners into them. It will come up with a message like this, by the way, for your learners. So the breakout room session has started. You will automatically move in 10 seconds. So it does give you 10 seconds. I do find you need to talk about it as well and say, this is how you're going into the rooms. This is what's going to happen. So once they're in the room, there's options you'll have as well. So you don't have to necessarily follow them into the room to start with straight away. Now, one of the useful things to pick up here is you can see now my rooms are open. So it's telling me all those individuals, they're on hold in the main meeting and they've gone into these rooms. But I do want to communicate with them. I want to send them a message. So one way you can do that is the make an announcement, which will make an announcement to both rooms, okay? So it might be you want to give them a warning of how long they're going to be in the room, or you want them to look at something in particular, but you can make an announcement to both rooms. When you do make an announcement to the rooms, it'll come through into that room and they have the same toolbar as normal as a chat. And you can see this real purple box here that says new announcement message from the organizer. So you can't miss it. It will tell everybody there's a message for them to go and look at in the chat. Another thing is when they open up the chat, you can see it goes in as important. So yes, I did send to my colleagues, can you take a screenshot of this, please? Because I want to put it into the webinar today. But you see it's got important and that exclamation mark there, so everybody's aware. Another thing as well to note, actually, when they're in the meeting is there is the option to return. You can turn that off, but actually the idea is if they press the return button, it takes them straight back into the main meeting. So if they are having any issues and they won't come back and ask you something, that can be done as well. When they are actually in the room and you're still sat in the main room, you have the options there in the actual list to actually join the room. So you can go into any of these rooms to support the learners, to just check in if they're okay. And you also on that list, you have the option to close the rooms as well. So if you want to close one room early and bring that group back earlier than everybody else, you can do it individually, one at a time. Or the other simple way of doing it is to click on close rooms. And what that will do is it will warn the learners that they have 10 seconds and will be returning to the main meeting, and it will bring them back in. My experience with this today, actually, and some of the feedback from my learners is how easy it is. They love that actually it just takes them straight in and brings them straight back, and they don't have to worry about clicking anything, doing anything. It does it all for them. So it's been a really useful tool. Will, we were discussing this earlier. Do you want to share what your thoughts are with it?
Well, yeah, I think it's one of those things that says it's new to us. It's only really just come out, and say Amy and I in our kind of different roles within the council, have to deliver quite a few workshops, and we're still getting to grips with how this can work best for us. So what I would encourage you to do is to think about how you might play with this technology so that you can familiarize yourself with it. Is there something that you could introduce into one of your weekly team meetings, and then you can set up a little workshop with your colleagues? Or could it be something that you could do within a PHSE lesson, perhaps, where there would be some good opportunities for group work or talk buddies, that kind of thing. And then as you get more familiar with it as a technology, then you can start thinking about how it might apply in other areas. And just thinking about it today, and looking at my children who were feeling a little isolated from their classroom buddies today, whether or not something like this could be an opportunity for kind of children to have kind of social chats with each other as well in break time. And once you get more used to technology, then I think you'll start seeing how you might to apply it in other areas. But also, just moving on to the next slide, as I said, this is new technology, and I think particularly if any of you have ICT coordinators in your schools, let them know about the Microsoft 365 roadmap. And this is where Microsoft will share information about the new developments which are coming down the line, and breakout rooms is one of those new developments. They bring in new backgrounds, new pieces of functionality like whiteboards within Teams meetings, and they'll let you know when that's coming down. So yeah, so have a play, keep your eyes out for what the new things are coming forward. And I'd imagine, Amy, that with things like breakout rooms, they'll change the functionality to improve it, because they've rolled it out quite quickly because a lot of people are asking for it. But I imagine they're going to be kind of updating it as we go along. So I'll hand back to you now, Amy. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think you're totally right. This is also new. Things are improving all the time. So keeping an eye on what's coming next is really important. But I feel as well sharing with each other. If you've had a go with the breakout rooms, talk to the other teachers. Share your experiences, what worked well for you. It's something we very much do in our own departments. We've got a chat that we just basically have a little chat. We'll put, oh, I've tried the breakout rooms today. This was my experience with it. Because I think if we share and we work together, it just helps with that anxiety, builds that confidence. And to know somebody else is going through it is so important as well. Which leads to actually talking around sort of top tips and best practices now. So what I want to do is I'm going to go through some ideas and some of sort of my best practice and what I've heard from other schools as well. But I really would like actually us to create this collaborative space right now where we actually share our own best practices. So I'm going to ask you in the questions and answers as I'm going through this, could you, if you have any best practices or top tips you'd like to share, pop in the chat or questions and answers, your school name, and what's your top tip at the moment? What's been working really well for you in the 3 weeks? Whether it is the mute button, whether it is locking down the meeting, but share with us. And we're going to look at some of those in a moment when we've actually gone through this top tips. So some of my top tips. First one I've got here is recording your lessons. Okay. One of the things I very much suggest is screen time is a big one. Sat here for a long time, even ourselves, we do get a bit fed up. We get bored of looking at the screen. So perhaps mixing up the lessons. It doesn't need to be all live lessons. It could be you record yourself beforehand and send it to the children. Really change the way you're doing things. But if you are recording the lesson that is a live one, think about safeguarding. Okay, and how you're going to protect those children's, maybe it's cameras off, etc. What are your policies around that? Second one I've got is show your face. So important. People like to see, each other. So actually by putting your camera on, leading by example, it really does help. Think though equally about your backgrounds. You know, there's some great ones out there, the backgrounds, Minecraft and all sorts of stuff, but they're quite busy. So if you are actually teaching, is it clear for people to be able to see your face clearly and understand what you're saying? And put a smile on your face as well. You know, a smile goes 1,000 ways and it cheers people up. Keeping your videos short. So if you are recording videos beforehand, again, keep them short. There's only so long any of us can be engaged for in that sort of activity. So keeping them short and simple would be really important. Test out your slides. So yes, if you are using PowerPoint, something that I think about doing, I do go into a Meet Now button that's in your calendar, and I'll practice sharing my screen, sharing my slides. Do they work for me at the moment? Do I need to change them? But also think about how other people might see them. Not all children will be on a large screen to have a look at them. So actually it could be you want to dial in on your mobile phone to see what it looks like, just in case some of your children will look at those slides, and make sure they're designed that people can read them and they're really clear. Using the resources as well. So, you know, some of your existing resources really do work in this environment. They can be reframed, they could be emailed ahead, they could be put into the files here, but think about the resources that are already out there. And I know there's loads of resources that I'm going to share with you and signpost to as well that might help you. And make sure that everybody can get hold of them. That's the other frustration. And equally, as a teacher, you don't want a lot of emails in the middle of your lesson saying, I can't open that and I can't get hold of this and how do I get into it? So think about, can they get into it? Can they access those resources? Giving us specific instructions as well. One of the things I really like to do, and I think about doing every time I'm training or doing anything like this, is explaining how you're going to use that system that day, making it simple for them so everybody knows what the expectations are. We've already explained about the questions and answers at the beginning. So what do you need to maybe cover at the beginning of the live lesson that might help the learners? Interactive activities, there is loads you could do, and I will be sharing some resources in some places, but you know, we have a whiteboard. So, you know, we've done games like Pictionary, we've done matching games on there. We've used Word documents to actually do case studies, so you can put questions in. You can have quizzes. So there's so many things you can create to try and get that interaction going a little bit more. And even having discussions is so important, you know, that they feel part of the class. Reasonable expectations. Don't try and make it too challenging, especially, by the way, for yourselves. There's, you know, right back at the beginning, I didn't try and do everything I'm doing right now, like the breakout rooms and the whiteboard, etc. I was actually make it simple to start with until your confidence starts building. For me, just putting the PowerPoint on the screen at the beginning was the big win. Once I got confident with that, then I moved on to other things. But equally with the children, make sure they understand perhaps how the system works, set some expectations with them. Auto checking to measure attendance. These are questions I've been asked quite a lot. You can do attendance on MS Teams. I know some schools have had issues around that. One of the things I actually quite like was actually registers. You know, I remember being back at primary school and sitting there and the teacher calling out my name and me putting my hand up or saying, yes, miss. So actually, you know, is it we bring that back at the beginning of a lesson, that we actually do a little register for the well-being as well, that they can see you, they can talk to you for a second before we get into the class. Group communication. So we have already mentioned you've got chat, you've got options on actually how these children can communicate, but equally think about yourselves as a school. Have you got a way that you can share your best practices or things and support each other? Now, I know this one sounds scary, by the way. It's not what it looks like. Let students take control. It is actually talking to them, though, equally about what do they like, and letting them get involved. They might tell you they like using the whiteboard, and they might want to show you something on the screen. You know, let them have some levels of control with this system as well. That will build their confidence up as well. And we do need a level of trust here. Again, like Will was saying earlier, if you set those expectations, maybe it's classroom etiquette you're setting it at the beginning, you know, like you normally would, that will help with that element. Now, for me, this is really important. Don't hide your feelings. Things are going to go wrong. Okay, this is IT, and even for myself, it still does. There's no point trying to pretend it's all okay. It's actually better to go, do you know what? That didn't work. Oh, the whiteboard's not coming on right now. Not a problem. We'll come up with something else. Again, it shows you're relaxing with it and that things might go wrong, but you're going with it as well. So think about doing that. And finally, my last top tip, and hopefully I'm looking at everybody, I'm hoping we've got some good ones coming in through as well, is repeat. If you find something that you really like using on MS Teams, so let's say it is the whiteboard, repeat it. Yeah. Children love consistency, and even adult learners, I'll be honest. If they know that they're going to go in the classroom, they're going to use the whiteboard and they've used it before, it's building their confidence up. It's also something you're going to relax with because you're used to doing it. So there is nothing wrong with repeating a style that you like using in MS Teams, okay? Just keep repeating that. So Will, I'm just going to pass to you and ask, any great top tips come through on the questions and answers?
Yeah, no, we've had a great response, and we've been publishing those as we've gone along. So you should all be able to see some of the top tips and kind of questions that people have put through. And obviously being able to learn how to mute, definitely, that's been seen as a good top tip, and people wanting to be able to record. One from Amy in Downton Primary, talking about starting the lessons 5 minutes before so children can log in and complete an activity whilst register is being taken, with their own camera and mic off. I'd add to that is that I've seen some schools where the culture is that at the start of the lesson, children are allowed to have their camera on so they can wave at each other and just say hello. Like Amy said, it's actually quite an important little visual check-in that we can do, and we do it in our own meetings sometimes. And then, you know, the culture is that the children then turn their cameras off so the lesson can begin. So starting a little bit early, allowing question time for children. So going back to that idea of structuring your lesson so that children have an expectation about when they can ask questions, and obviously, you know, bringing in that culture of using the hand up function that people can ask questions. I'd also add is that, you know, where you've got your chat enabled, which I would encourage you to do so, you can ask children to pose questions in there, and then the teacher can wait and then at the appropriate time go through those questions and find out. Just coming back to what Amy said about letting students take control, I guess that's a bit like the concept of the flipped classroom, you know, allowing you know, your students where possible to present back, and that's where you could use that spotlight function. I remember back to when I was teaching year 5, that it would frustrate me often that pupils would listen more clearly to when a pupil presented it back to them than when their esteemed teacher did. But so it was often a tactic that I would use. One of the teachers from Wyvern St Edmunds has said that they love the breakout rooms, and other people have said that they've been using breakout rooms for TA interventions as well. I think that's some of the main ones that I've picked up. Again, talking about having a clear structure to your sessions, working well for the children so they know what their expectations are. And some people said that chat is being used for learning chat, unless between 12, 13, 1, when they can chat normally about other appropriate things. I really like that one. And I think that goes back to what Amy was saying about, you know, it's a bit like, I was thinking about this, about the e-safety lessons that we've often done in schools. And I can remember one of my pupils saying to me, well, if the internet is so dangerous, why are you letting us on there? And I was like, well, okay, sensible point. But I said, well, look, we have to let you learn how to negotiate your environment. We can't stop you from crossing the street, so we have to teach you how to cross the street. I think it's the same thing with technology. And this is a good example. Children are going to be learning how to use this kind of technology for most of their lives, and for possibly quite a lot of their educational lives. So we have to show them how to use it as a trusted user. We've had some questions about using Class Notebook. Now, it's not something I've come across. So if anyone has any answers about Bill's question about how do we use Class Notebook, please, perhaps if they could let us know in the chat, then we can share that knowledge. Just one kind of final top tip that I've seen, Amy, with my kids class is that where teachers have smart boards and where they have the smart board technology on their laptop or their computer, they've been able to share that window in the MS Teams. I've seen some where they've had a webcam focused on the physical board. I would advise sharing the software, so sharing the window like you would a presentation of your smart noteboard, and that way when you start annotating your smart noteboard, the kids at home can see that more clearly too. So I think that's probably most of the top tips. I'll have another quick read through, Amy, and if I see any more, then I'll pick some of those ones up.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Will. And I think that's the thing. This is what we wanted. You know, I've just picked up some great ideas from what Will's read out as well, that things that will support me with some of my learning as well. And that's the thing. I think you should all be very proud of some of the great things you're already managing to accomplish. I really want you to go away thinking about what you've managed to already achieve in that very short time and how amazing that is. And hopefully some of the ideas we're giving you might help move that further forward for you as well. So the other thing I just wanted to talk about, and one of quite important things are actually around MS Teams, is updating your system. We've already talked about breakout rooms are coming with an update and new updates all the time. So I thought it was just important to make you aware of how you can actually update your system. So this here, I know it's quite a busy screen for everybody, but this is obviously your MS Teams main screen. So down on the left-hand side, you'd have your chat, your calendar, your Teams, your activities. The area you want to go to is your profile. So over on the right-hand side here, it might be your profile picture if you have one, or it might be your initials. You would just click on that button there and it'll bring up this menu here. And you can see there's lots of different things in there that you can go and explore as well. You've got settings in there, you can change your status. But the main one we're going to look at is that check for updates. So if you click on that check for updates, what it will do is it will come up with this message. Oh, no, it won't. I press back. There we go. So you can see on your screen, it will come up with, we will check and install any updates while you continue working. So it's not something you need to worry about that, oh, it's going to throw me off MS Teams and I won't be able to do anything. You can actually carry on working on MS Teams whilst it updates. If it finds anything, it will come up and say updated, and it will do it automatically for you. The other thing it might ask you to do is to restart your computer or to restart Teams. It's something I really recommend with your computers at the moment anyway, is updating them regularly, restarting them regularly, because you are relying on them so much more. I do it now as best practice every morning. I will restart my computer, and that really helps to make sure it's the best it can be. Don't get me wrong, still have issues sometimes with my IT. I've been thrown out of my own meetings, etc. But it's the best you can do. And we're all going to have those moments, by the way, especially now I'm finding broadband whips a little bit tricky with all the children on their virtual classrooms as well. So we tend to be fighting over Wi-Fi a little bit. But again, do the best you can do. Okay, so we have got to our section. I know time is nicely ticking along. Just for any questions that anybody has. So hopefully the team have been keeping an eye on that. But Will, is there anything you've spotted that's come through with some questions?
Yeah, there's a particular one about using the whiteboard function. Amy, is there anything we can talk about using the whiteboard in MS Teams meetings at the moment? Have you used that much when you've been training?
Yes, I have used it for certain activities. The main thing is with any of these things, it is having a play. I learned how to use it by going into a meeting on my own or with a colleague and trying it out. It is in your shared folder. So on your toolbar, it is under shared and you can share the whiteboard. You can also set up the whiteboard before the meeting as well. I'm not going to go through how to do that because it's probably going to take up too much time. But I find the whiteboard really useful. But again, one thing I would suggest with it is teaching the children how to use it as well. Because actually, if you just throw the whiteboard up in front of them and say, right, everybody, you can draw, you can do maths on it, we can do this, we can do that, they might not know how to use it. So get yourself confident with it, have a go, and then actually train the children on how we're going to use it, how they can zoom out, zoom in, the pens, the post-it notes that are in there and the text. But you can create all sorts. And I know a lot of people like that because it is like having your smartboard back in the classroom. Mm-hmm. That's why I like it as well, to be fair, rather than hiding behind a PowerPoint all the time.
Yeah, but before we move on to the next question, I think there was just a point. I think sometimes with whiteboard, not all students at home are able to access it. And I think that may be to do with the types of devices that people are accessing MS Teams on. So it may not work for everybody at home. There may be other ways of having, say, shared Word document that maybe children can write on. I don't know. Again, it's worth experimenting and seeing different ways to skin that cat. The other question. Oh, sorry, go on.
Just to add to that as well. Sorry, Will. Also, I have found a resource out just on the internet on Google. That's a free whiteboard that people can use as well, and that is being able to be accessed by everybody. So it's another option. There is other options out there.
Yeah, because sometimes there can be things where you share something via a kind of online browser enabled app rather than through something particular. The other question people were saying, how do I record? I was wondering about this because obviously you can record, videos on your laptop or your computer. There are ways that you can record PowerPoint presentations as well. But what about the MS Teams meeting itself, Amy? How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so if you go into on the toolbar, I always call it the three dots, by the way, because it's the easiest way to remember. In the three dots, there is the option to record. Obviously, it depends also on your admin settings, how it's been set up. Some people might have it, might not, but that would allow you to record the meeting like we're in, for example, here, and then send that out as an MP4. But there is lots of different software you can use. I personally quite like using PowerPoint to record myself going through the slides and sending that out as a video, sort of how-to guides and things like that. So again, it's just Google is sometimes my friend, I'll be honest, that I go and search on there. But the three dots, have a look in those three dots on your toolbar and see what features are in there.
Okay, I think that's most of the questions that we haven't already kind of replied into the chat that I think we'd kind of cover off, I think, and just mindful that we're coming towards the end, and I know that teacher time is precious. Yes,
definitely, and they've had a busy day already, and so just the last little bit we wanted to cover for everybody. So signposting, some places you can go. Some of you might have already looked at Right Choice and be aware of it. So Right Choice, there is training courses, there's loads of resources there. We have actually got our own training courses we're running for externals and schools, where actually with how to deliver using MS Teams, so we cover the whole thing. But there's some great resources right on the homepage around remote learning with some guidance for everybody as well. So that's one place I would definitely recommend going to have a look at. Other areas as well I would definitely recommend is the EdTech. So I've got the website there for everybody. On there is some great little how-to videos, really bite-sized, simple to watch, but it gives you some guidance, and there's lots of other resources there as well. The SWGFL website, fantastic, that one, by the way. There's some really good documents around should we have cameras on or off. If anybody's looking for templates around actually having a behavior type things with remote training, then there's templates in there. There is so much. So it's a really good place that I would recommend people go and have a look at. And Will, just to pass to you for this bit.
Yeah, so my colleague Kaylee, who's producing the event today, she helps manage some of our social media channels, and here's where you can find out more information about some of the training resources that we do, so both on Twitter and on Facebook. And I guess our kind of final thing that we'd want to say, just going on to the next slide, is to say a wholehearted kind of thank you to what you're doing so far. Having worked in the teaching profession, I know how hard you work, but also how good you are at supporting each other. So what I'd like to say is, share your learning, share your mistakes, get the children involved in learning how to use these tools. This recording of this training has been a taster for what we can offer and what we can find out together, but I encourage you to share this with your colleagues as well, and they'll be able to watch this back for the next 30 days. I think we'll probably make the recording available via our social media channels as well, so you can look back. But again, thanks very much. Amy, did you want to kind of finish off anything at all?
Just from me, like I've been saying, I just think everybody's been so amazing. I think, how we are all working together on this. And I think just having this event as well, where we can hear from you all and see and get those ideas and work together and collaborate is so important. So yeah, thank you so much from me as well. I think it's amazing. And I've definitely seen the benefit from my children of what you're doing. So just keep doing what you're doing. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you again on some sort of event like this again.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.